Hi there, Stampers. It's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Welcome to today's live. Um, I go live every Monday and Thursday right here on YouTube and in my Facebook group. We usually do some sort of class. Almost always it's kind of a fun fold card. Today we're doing a little 3D item, and we're actually going to do two because I found a pattern by someone else, and I apologize, I can't remember her name, but she had done this little treat box here, and the measurements were in metric, and so I had to convert it. And still, when I did, it seemed really little. So I took her pattern and I bumped it up and I made it bigger. So I'm going to show you what I did to make that bigger and more sturdy. So we're going to make two little gift boxes that will hold a Cadbury egg inside. I'm sure you could put anything in it, but because Easter is coming and we're playing with the Easter Bunny set, it only made sense that we used eggs, right? So welcome. Those of you who have been here before know to, in the comments, you want to type hashtag prize patrol, and that gets you into the drawing to win today's project. Normally it's a card I mail to you. Today, because it's a 3D item, what I would do is mail it to you flat, and then all you have to do is glue it together, but you still want it. So put in hashtag prize patrol for your chance to win today's little project. For our first little one, I have a piece of cardstock here, and it is 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then I came in 3/4 of an inch on all sides. Okay. Then I have this piece here that is 2 inches by 9 1/4. And it's scored at 1 3/4. And then 4 1/4 and 5. So that's going to give us this top part. And then 7 1/2. So what that does is this is giving us the little piece that's going to be on the bottom. Then it's going to go up 2 inches. It's going to have the 3/4 inch top. Then it's going to go down 2 1/2 inches, and then the 1 3/4 across the bottom. Okay, she had done this piece to hold the egg. So I'm going to bring in our awesome little cut and emboss machine. Remember, this is the one you can get for free, or basically free. It'll be $30 if you buy our $129 kit. Right now, during celebration, which only has a little while left. It ends at the end of the month. You can sign up. Our kit that is normally $99 that you would get $125 worth. They're going to add $50 to that. So you're going to get $175 for $99. And then if you'd like, you can add this for $30 more. So our kit would be $129 and would include this. So that's our little thing at the bottom. I'm also going to cut a hole in the front because that's where the little peekaboo hole is. So I'm going to take this same die and I'm going to leave it in the middle here. And run that through. Looks like it may have shifted on me a little, but you'll get the idea. If things shift on you, you might want to use a Post-it note. I often do that when I'm doing the, what do I want to say? The outside, when I'm doing this ring. So I'm going to cut the little piece that is the peekaboo hole through the front. But I want to create this as a frame. And so what I'm going to do to create this little frame here is I'm going to take a second circle and I'm going to center it around that. And then this is just kind of Post-it note tape. but we just kind of want to hold it in place. And run this through. Well, my mat's getting all kinds of sideways, isn't it? Okay. So then when I take this off, we have our ring. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do one more while I have this out here, just because we're going to need one for the other. And I have the little one. Here we go. So I'm going to have the same kind of peekaboo hole with the frame around it for our second larger one. And I'm actually using the same size hole because there's Mark coming home. I'm going to use the same size hole because I wanted room for the bunny. And so let me go ahead and do this. And then I'm also going to put grass on the bottom of the other one. So I wanted more room around the front. That was part of the reason why I made it bigger. I also made the base a little sturdier. So let me go ahead and pull this out. Okay. So now we're ready to start assembling this little one. And so because this is going to be the base down here that's going to hold the egg, I'm going to come in and just slice up each side. And then we're going to fold these in. And this is going to make our platform that's going to go inside and what holds our egg. So I'm going to use some liquid glue. I like the liquid when I'm doing things like this because it gives us a little more wiggle time. Oops, stick my fingers right into it. Okay, so see, this is another thing. When I was playing with this, I thought, well, this is cute, but it seems a little flimsy. I guess it would be enough as long as it doesn't get a lot of movement. If you're giving it to an adult or something, they'd probably be okay. My thought was if you gave this to a grandkid, it might get smushed. So I don't know about your grandkids, but mine, a little rough with things. And then we're going to adhere it inside our little holder. So this is our front, so that's the hole. And then I'm going to put this right here and then fold this over, and the base, gotta wait for it to glue. Okay, this base is going to flip around and that will glue to the bottom, but I also want to glue this side. So a little more glue here, and then I'm going to match that score line. Okay. Come on. And then I'm going to make this one stick over the top. Okay. Is everybody following me so far? Another thing I did with her pattern is I took and cut a piece of cardstock that will fit in here that will be kind of a reinforcement so that when I punch those holes in it, it's going to be a little more sturdy. And then I'm using our 1/8 inch hole punch. This is something we used to sell. We do not anymore, which is kind of a bummer because it was really useful. And then I'm just taking a small piece of ribbon and feeding it through there. And then tying a knot so that when they pick it up, this knot will stop it from going through the hole completely. So it doesn't have to be pretty, it just needs to be big enough to stop it from going through. And then we can cut off any excess. Okay. When I can't get it to feed through the hole, I cut it at an angle so it's got kind of a point, and then it'll feed better. Sorry, my arm is still not quite working. It'll be 3 weeks on Sunday. Yes, painter's tape will work to hold the die as well. You want some that's ultra low tack. If it's not, you might want to take that painter's tape, like the blue stuff. I usually have to pat it onto my shirt or something to pick up some fibers, something that makes it a little less sticky. Fibers from my shirt, oil from my fingers, you know, something that makes it so that it's not going to pull on the cardstock when I pull it out of there. So for the little bunny inside, I used this one sitting up, but I only needed his head. So I've got a small piece of cardstock here. And I'm going to come in from an angle on the side. Okay, because that's all we're going to really see through the hole, if that. And then I'm going to fussy cut it because there is no, the punch that fits the rabbits doesn't fit this one. I did manage to find a chiropractor. I just kind of looked up online and something caught my eye, which was called The Joint. I don't know if you've heard of it before. I had never heard of it before, but apparently it's a chain chiropractic office and you don't need to make an appointment. You just walk in and they help you out. So I did see a chiropractor earlier this week. I have high hopes that he will be able to fix something in my arm and make it start working well again. Those of you who don't know, I slipped and fell on the ice about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still recovering, and I'm tweaked a little because it's my dominant arm. It's really inconvenient when I use my arms for a living, you know. But hopefully he can get it all fixed up. Okay, so I just put a little bit of liquid glue on there. Another thing you could do is put the adhesive sheet on the back of this, but because I wanted it to fit that hole exactly because they're the same size, I kind of wanted to use liquid glue because it allows me to wiggle it once it's stuck. Then my little bunny is just going to come in from the side. And I would normally, you know, paint his eyes and his ears and all of that. But this was her little box, and it's cute. She didn't use the bunny. She used something else, but I didn't like the missing bottom, and I thought it was a little small. I forget what set that she used with it, but her little images she was using were smaller. My bunnies are a little bigger. So to make this one, I started out kind of the same way in that I took her base, and made it bigger. And her base had the 3/4 of an inch in from each side. And then the bottom part, hers was 1 3/4. I made mine 2.5. But then I wanted the bottom of the box. I wanted it to reinforce. So I added another piece. So when I did that, I put it in my trimmer and I said, okay, well, I know that I want it to come in half, 3/4 of an inch. That's going to be my side that's going to come down. So I scored that. Then I took that score line and I put it at the 2.5. So that gave me 2.5 inches between my score line and where the new one was going to be. Then I came over 3/4 of an inch with this score line to be the opposite side, and then I cut it. Then I came this way and I said, okay, one side, 3/4 of an inch. Then I need the top of the box to be 2.5. So I'm going to bring this score line to my 2.5 and score again. Then I need another 3/4 of an inch side. So I scored that. And then I wanted the bottom. So I came over 2.5 and scored, and then 3/4 of an inch and cut. So, I started out with a much bigger piece of paper, but I kind of just, as I was thinking, I want, okay, a side, the top, a side, the bottom, a side. You follow me? That's how I came up with the measurements for this one. And it is overall 4 inches by 7.5. On the 7.5 side, it's scored at 3/4, 3 1/4, 4, and 6.5. On the 4-inch side, it's scored at 3/4 and 3 1/4. Well, that's fun to be born on Easter Sunday. Yes, the bunny punch is supposed to come back. The clover is not, but the bunny punch and the one with the heart, I want it's bouquet something, that one's coming back as well. My hope is it will be in the new catalog. We don't know that for sure. It could be what they call an online exclusive, because Stampin' Up! Is starting to introduce things that will be online only. They will never be printed in a catalog. They will be just something that they sell online, and when it's out, if it's really super popular, they promise to order more, but if it's not, it will just go away. So when I fold this up and make my box for the bottom, I really don't need 2 flaps at the same spot. So I'm going to cut these ones off. So I end up with that. So it's just been cut inward on the long sides. Our first online exclusive thing is going to come out March 1st. So next week, less than 7 days away, they're going to be giving us some new product. So you have a decision to make. You either want to wait until March 1st so that you get to see what these new products are going to be. We have seen several people have purchased that flower. Sorry, I can't think of the name of it right now, but there's a flower set. It's a bundle that came out, and several people have been featuring it, but there's more. That's just one of the many options of things that are coming out. So that's kind of exciting. I'm kind of waiting to see what the other things are going to be, because I really don't need more flowers. I always think that and then, I don't know, end up with them. Because I didn't think I needed the two-tone flora, but I have it anyway, and we're doing a class on it. So, go figure. We all tell ourselves we don't need things, and then we see so many great ideas, we end up having to have them. But the other thing is that's going to start March 1st, but February 28th is the last day that you can actually get something from the clearance rack. Oh, look what I did. I forgot to cut the hole. I got all to talking and I forgot. So let's see. Let's pull in and get creative. I'm going to take my die. These are the layering circles dies. I'm sure you've already figured that out. But because I only wanted to cut through one side and not the other, I'm going to do this wrong. In that I'm going to have the cutting blades up, and I stuck it in the middle, so it's inside. Not the preferred way to do this, but since I messed it up, and I always promise to show you guys how I fix things, this would be how I would fix it. So not exactly centered, but it could have been if I had placed it better. Maybe put a Post-it note to hold it in place, but you get the idea. It needs the hole because that's where our egg's going to go. Okay, so because this is going to be the egg, this is the top. So I want my seam to be on the bottom. So I'm going to use this side as my top flap. But you would have wanted to cut the hole before you ran it and started, ran off and started doing the sides. If you cut it first, you could have placed that perfectly. I always say there's something about turning the camera on and having people watch you that makes things just go all wonky. And back in the day, I would always edit those things out. And then you guys started saying you wanted to see how I recovered from things. So you asked for it. You wanted to see me mess up. Now you get to see it. All right. So we need the other hole for our window through the front. Because I had this at 2.5 inches, I did exactly the same thing, and then I went 2.5 wide, and then I said 2.5 this way, and it's actually 2 5/8 because I wanted to make sure that it really covered it. So it's got a 1/16 of an inch side, but you can't really see it. And then I went up about 3 inches, and I got that by looking at the bunny in the hole and trying to estimate how big I thought my little area that I'm creating my image in, how big I wanted it to be. So it's 3 inches tall. So we have the base at 2.5. I went up 3 inches. This 3/4 inch is going to be the top, then 3 inches down and 2.5 across. So this is 2 5/8, and then it's scored on the long side at 2.5, 6 1/4, and 9 1/4. Wait a minute, so there's one more there, huh? 5 1/2, 6 1/4, 9 1/4. But you get the idea. And then I wanted the two bottoms to overlap, and then I wanted my top. So this is where I wanted to reinforce it because that's where my ribbon's going to go. So I'm just going to lay this in here and trim it off so that it's not hanging outside. It doesn't need to be pretty or exact because nobody's going to see it. It's just my reinforcement. Then I'm going to do my 1/8 inch holes. And I do suggest the 1/8 inch because a 1/4 inch hole would be very big. You would have to make a much bigger knot to not have it pop through. This time I'm using this white organdy ribbon. It's really pretty. It's got glitter built into it, which I love. So I'm just angling the end into a point so that I can put it through the hole. Irresistible Bloom. Is that the online exclusive one everybody's using? That sounds right. Janet's like me. I did that for my birthday. I had the online birthday party for you guys and gave away stuff rather than getting gifts. Okay, so I'm just making a knot on the inside. And this is what's going to keep it from going through the hole. And then I have a little excess after my knot. I don't want to cut it too tight because I don't want my knot to come undone, but I don't need quite that much excess. So there's my handle. Oh, and we need the hole. That's what we were working on, huh? All right. And now I want to make sure we're using the smaller of the circles I was working with. And then we already cut the ring. My tape was a little too sticky, so I have a little bit of a spot where it took some of the cardstock, and took the top layer off, but that's going to be fine. What I'll do is I'm going to place that little spot over here on the side so that my bunny will cover it up. Okay, so we need our bunny and we need the grass. I have it. Here we go. So I'm going to use this little stamp from the Easter Bunny stamp set. It's just grass. It's not long enough to go all the way across, but I can easily just repeat stamp it. So I'm going to color with Old Olive Stampin' Blends. So I'm going to go ahead and use Old Olive ink. This is okay because we just want to make sure that we're using water-based ink when we're working with the alcohol-based markers. And since this is water-based, as is our Memento Black, we're still good. And we need our bunny. I'm using up some scraps because we're going to fussy cut them out. I'm going to give him a blue eye. And I used the fat end, which made me go outside the lines. I don't know if you can see that, but I am outside the lines. I didn't intend to be. So I'm going to come in with the color lifter, and I'm going to push that back. And after that dries, you'll be able to see that I can push the ink back into the eye. Come in with a little bit of petal pink for inside his ear. And I still want it a little lighter than that. So again, I'm going to give it a little bit of blend with the color lifter. So that's two things the color lifter will do. It will lighten up your colors, or it will help you do a correction by helping you push the ink back into where it's supposed to go. I mentioned before we could do the Snowfall Accents puff paint if you still had that. So I'm adding some and then trying to make sure that I get rid of that little bubble in there. Come on, there we go. There we go. So you can see how the puff paint gives his little cottontail a little puff of cotton. And I did that before I fussy cut him just because I wanted to have the edges, because I knew holding on to him would be a little warm. And I wasn't sure where my little reverse tweezers were at the moment. So went ahead and did the puff paint before fussy cutting. Every once in a while I look over to make sure I'm answering any questions you guys might have. If I ever miss one, I apologize. It's never intentional. Okay. There's our bunny. I'm coming in with a little bit of the dark on the Stampin' Blends, and then I'm going to come back in with the light and drag that out. I'm only doing one section at a time because I don't want the ink to dry. If the ink dries, I have to add that much more to get it wet again so that they will blend. They blend when they're wet. So you don't want it drying in between. The puffy paint being runny. Yes, it is runny. I don't know if you watched how I did it. I put it on there and then I tried to keep it steady. You don't want to tip the paper at all. By tipping the paper, it lets it run. I also heat from the bottom because the wind from the heat tool will push it around a lot. And I find it doesn't do that as much from the bottom. You can also add a little bit, heat it up, and then add a little bit more, because if it's not quite puffy enough, you can always put more on top of it. But those would be my suggestions. Heat from the bottom, heat slowly, watch the angle of which you're blowing the air. Do you think that helps at all? Have you tried those things yet? Okay, so now I need this grass across the front. And usually what I'll do is I'll cut it straight across and then come in and make little V's. To me, that makes it a little easier to fussy cut than trying to go up and down, up and down, up and down. Yes, I realize that it's not going to be exact, and there's going to be some little pieces at the top I'll need to come back and clean up. But this is just how I have found it to be easier. So you can see the tops were kind of square, so I got to go back in and fix them. But nowadays, so many people are opposed to fussy cutting, but back in the day, we didn't have dies. Before dies existed, we fussy cut all the time. So I guess I've just had more practice at it and I'm a little more used to it, so it doesn't bother me as much. But if it does bother you, you could always check through your stash, because we have had several die sets that have had grass. And you could probably find another die in your collection and die cut it and use that grass. It doesn't have to be out of the same exact stamp set. I do it because I'm featuring this stamp set, but any old grass will work. We also used to, for grass, we would take a strip of green and then just cut the top in little 1/8-inch cuts. Do you remember doing that? We even had some scissors at one point that had multiple blades on it, so you could do those little snippets and create grass faster. But we would just take a piece of green and just cut. And then that would be your grass. And that works too. We also used to do that and then roll it up into a tight ball, and it would be the center of a flower. It's bringing back memories from all kinds of stuff we used to do. I've been doing this a very long time, if you haven't caught on to that already. Okay, so here's our grass for across the bottom. I made it a little long on purpose. I'd always rather cut off excess than have it be too short. My bunny's going to sit in the grass. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on there. I'm only putting adhesive on the bottom because I don't want it in the hole. So I'm just adhering the grass right on our score line at the bottom. And then I'm going to come in from the back side and just trim off the excess. I don't want to cut his tail, so I'll leave that one and just cut off this one. So there we go. I also had stamped and fussy cut out the little butterfly, which of course is not right under my fingers right now, but there is a butterfly and that I had cut out. And this one I colored using the Stampin' Blends. It made the, I don't know, the tips are a little big for how small that butterfly is. So when I did the other one, I stamped it in Memento. And then I colored with the Stampin' Write markers. Now, I know I've said before that these were what all we used to have to color with was these. And they don't blend, but they still work for coloring tools. They're also a great writing instrument if you do journaling in scrapbooks or wanted to write in your cards in a color. I also use them quite a bit for selectively inking a stamp. I use the brush tip end to apply ink to my rubber stamp so that I can have multiple colors on one stamp. Because when you use it on a pad, it's obviously only going to get one color. But if you use this brush tip end and kind of paint your rubber stamp, you can selectively put where you're putting those colors. And you would ink up the back and then you huff on it, which I know sounds weird, but you basically breathe on it and the moisture from your breath will re-wet the ink. But you can see how the Stampin' Blends make it a little more blurred, which isn't bad. It's just a different look. And okay, so now I have my odd little bottom that doesn't have the hole in the center. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push it off to the side on purpose because then I can make it look like I wanted him looking at the egg. By it being off to the side, my bunny doesn't block it. So we can fool ourselves and say I did that on purpose by making it off center, right? Also the thing about my having the bottom on it is that's how I can glue it down. I would start from the back side because I want the seam to be at the back. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of liquid glue on the bottom. Okay, I just moved it so that, again, my seam is going to get buried under the designer series paper. This designer series paper was the Dainty Delights, I believe, and it is no longer available. It was one of those celebration items that sold out. It was very popular. I was pretty happy. We didn't have much sell out of the celebration rack as quickly as it has in the past. Did y'all notice they put rubber stamps on the clearance rack? That was kind of shocking. They almost never do that. So that was kind of fun to see them put rubber stamps on the clearance rack. So there's our little egg holder. And when I find that butterfly I already cut out, I will adhere that on there. Oh, here we go. See, I told you I did one. I did see that Janet tried the fold that we did Monday and made a adorable card for her son's birthday using the Whiskey Business, or no, it wasn't. It was Brewed for You. She did beer. It was a beer card, but it did the center pop up like we did on Monday. This one here. So if you're in the Facebook group, The Realm of Creativity, which is the group for my customers, you can see her card. It was adorable. Monday, we're going to start working with a new bundle. We're going to work with Nested Friends. And again, this is a bundle. It comes with the stamp set and dies. And the dies make this great nest. So this is what we're going to do on Monday, is make this point card, arrow fold, I think they call it, with the little nest from the dies of Nested Friends. Of course, this is stamped, but I love how the little leaves, see how they emboss at the same time as they cut? I think that's just awesome. And the paper back here is the Dandy Designs, which is another freebie from Celebration. It was a gigantic pack of paper, so it's really a good deal for your level 2 option for a Celebration freebie. Okay, so now we're ready to do Prize Patrol. Let me remove my desk, add our little wheel, and give it a spin. We're spinning to see who's going to win a little packet of the parts to create today's little egg holder. By entering hashtag Prize Patrol, your name is collected by the computer, and then I spin it, and we have a winner. Congratulations, Christy. That's a name I don't think I've seen up there before. That's pretty exciting. So what I need you to do is I need you to go to my website, which is queenbeecreations.net, and then up there in the address bar of your browser window, at the end, you want to put /Prize Patrol so that it's this address down here at the bottom. and it will pop up a Google form. And in that Google form, you will give me the address on where you want the parts mailed to. So congratulations, Christy. Thank you to everyone who joined me today as we made our little Cadbury egg holder. Using the Easter Bunny set. We actually made 2, so if you're catching on late, go back and see the first one. There are 2 different sizes. And I will see you on Monday to play around with nested friends. Thanks for joining me. Bye.